over the years, we've added more cities. It's a great energy here to see what's happening across the country.
What I've learned from other entrepreneurs is very, very valuable.
Sitting in a room with other people that have ideas too, it helps people to believe that, you know what, my idea is worth something, it's worth pursuing, it's worth going after it. Even if it looks like a challenge, I should still go out and try to do it.
All right. Thanks for coming to 1 Million Cups. Today we have a couple of presenters out of the Texas Tech Accelerator Program. The first one is Reproductive Solutions.
1 Million Cups is a weekly educational program.
And it's John Smothers. If you can, give him a standing ovation. Let's get this started for you. And the microphone, y'all can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Good morning. So as introduced, Reproductive Solutions, RSI, is in the first cohort of companies that are being housed in the Tech Accelerator. We're actually not a new company. We've been at this for quite a while. Our team are all Texas Tech graduates. I'm the CEO, Dr. Sam Green, Dr. Lindsay Penrose, do appointments in animal science and also run the OBGYN labs here at Texas Tech. Kara Russell's will receive her doctorate, I guess, in a couple of weeks. Also has got patents applied for, and Alex Ransom is a graduate student, also in the OBGYN. Dr. Dusty Johnson is a graduate of Texas Tech University. She's not here in Lubbock, she's out on the road most of the time. We'll talk about her in just a few minutes. She's one of the co-inventors of our technology, and she currently works for EMD Serrano, which is one of the leading technology pushers in the field of fertility or infertility, and she is the National Sciences Manager for them for fertility. So she's kind of a national expert. So what are we up to? Problem of infertility. 6 million couples in the United States are facing infertility. Worldwide, that's somewhere, an article I just read, around 40 million couples that face the problem. In 35% of the cases, infertility is going to be an issue with the male. And unfortunately, when that happens, the couple that's facing that problem immediately move to IVF procedures at $12,000 a pop. And why is that? Because the viability of the semen collected is not strong enough that they have a chance of being successful at the lower cost procedures, the IUI procedures. Why is that? Anybody ever given a urine sample? Come on, everybody. That's current best practice. When the male shows up at the clinic and they need to check the viability, or they're collecting a sample to actually do a procedure, they send him down the hall, they give him one of those cups, and he comes back with that sample, and they immediately begin to process it because they have very little time, because the sample is going to degrade very quickly. And why is that? Well, because when the sample hits the environment of the collection cup, bright light, sudden drop in temperature, things trigger those sperms so that they take off, literally swimming for their lives. You've all seen the video of the sperm, you know, they're going like crazy, swimming all over. Because something's triggered them and they know, this is it, I gotta go. And so they take off, they use up a lot of energy doing that. That's okay if you're collecting a sample and the male is very fertile. If they're borderline, you got a problem doing that, because you're going to lose a lot of those cells very quickly. But what if there was a way that you could collect that sample in a device that the design of the device itself maintained constant temperature of that collection? And what if there was a way that the surface caused all the sperm to funnel down to come to a certain area, so that there's very little surface area exposed, that there could be any kind of chemical reaction to trigger it? And what if you had a milliliter of media that's added to that, so that as the the sperm go in there, they're immediately covered with buffers and nutrients. And then what if you turn the light off? If you were to see the video of the sperm sample that's collected using this process, your first reaction would be, oh my God, you killed them all, right? Because nobody's swimming. But they're not dead. They just woke up for a minute and had a bad dream and went back to sleep. And so in the cases of the sample collected in the clinic, you've got minutes to process that. And that's one of the reasons that the samples have to be collected in the clinic. Using this process, a couple could collect at home, would have to be in the clinic. They could drive 4 hours to a fertility clinic and they'd still be fine. So that's what happens on the technical side. Who is it that's going to buy this? Well, we were involved before we got accepted into the accelerator program with the National Science Foundation program using the Lean Startup methodology. If you haven't read that book, I sure would recommend it. Pushed us out of the lab to go talk to potential customer segments. One of the things we found in talking to fertility clinics is that they're ready for anything that's going to help them with the male infertility issue because there's nothing being done about it. And they're looking for anything, they're hungry for anything that's going to improve their success rates. And talking to the couples, and I know this from being a couple that for 7 years went through this process, you'll try anything. And couples would travel to the clinic if their chances of success were just a little bit better. And they'll do that because there's no insurance involved in all this. Everything's on their dime. So if they have a chance that that $12,000 procedure is going to be more successful at clinic A than B, they're going there. We did initial clinical trials using this device at 2 clinical sites. And what we found supported what we knew could happen based upon the lab environment. And that is that semen collected using this process was 37% more viable than those collected with the semen cup. And 100% of the pregnancies that were derived using this process carried to term and delivered healthy babies versus 40%. So what does that mean? Well, that means that the success rate of the fertility clinics just went from 45% to 65%. It means those couples that were at $12,000 procedure now have a chance to go to the lower procedures. Price points, $99, $6 direct cost, $6 royalty per unit to Texas Tech. So we're at 87 gross profit. How many are out there? There's 458 clinics in the United States, which is our initial focus. 6 million couples a year, as we mentioned earlier. There's only 4.5 million couples that are actually involved in treatments. That's because there's another 1.5 that can't afford it because it's up there too high. So what does that amount to when we look at the collections that are needed per cycle based on the data from the clinics? It rounds out to where we're focused on, which is the surge available market, which is infernal male. That's 3 million units a year. So it equates to $287 billion in annual sales if you just focus on the male infertility. Portfolio is robust, affecting the United States and 6 other entities outside the United States. And our plan is to go and enroll fertility clinics on the basis that when we did the clinical trials, we're considered a non-significant risk, which is equivalent to a specimen cup. So we're going to go out and begin enrolling clinics to buy the device. Part of the feedback process is to enroll them as part of the clinical trial so we get the data so that at some point we can go for superiority claims. As I said, Dr. Dusty Johnson is part of our team, and she's a national expert. She has access already into all these clinics. We've already published all this data to the Society of Human Reproductive Medicine, which are the people that run these clinics, and they told us they're waiting on us. It's a matter of getting through the process and getting the product out to them.
All right, thank you. Okay, does anyone have a question for John? I have a question. How long, or what was the process like to get involved in the accelerator program?
It was a little different maybe than you would think. We've been at this for some time, and initially the company, these patents cover all mammalian species. And initially the focus was on the cattle industry, so we did, and horse feed. And we found out after years of that kind of research that they're not interested. They're perfectly happy with where their success rates are. So we began looking at going towards the human market, but there was a big wall there called FDA, and we kind of backed off and we're taking it slow. We found out that the accelerator was open, and we came in and talked to Weston about being mentors. Dr. Crean and I, we are mentors for the accelerator. As he talked and asked about our background, and we told him what we were doing and the companies that we had formed, he said, well, you guys ought to come in and actually take a shot at being one of these companies. And so we said, well, we'll give it a shot. So we went through the first round and won it, went to the second round and got accepted, and went to the third round and got accepted. Along the way, got small grants. So we've been self-funding up to this point. We haven't gone out to raise any capital. There's probably $750,000 of research behind this at this point, through grants, etc. So we just took the opportunity, and part of what interests me in that is that years ago, I chaired the Bioscience Initiative, and Lita had that program. So that's how I got involved from the business side. I'm a business guy, I'm not a technical guy. I met these researchers and was fascinated with what they were doing, particularly because it affected me personally where I'd been through. So we just formed this relationship, and here we are with Threshold.
Okay. Anyone else?
Is this the exact final product kind of thing, or?
Yes. We had the initial molds were made for us by a company called Ideality, which is out of Seattle. And that's actually the production product. We have about 500 still in inventory that we use to launch with the first clinics. And we moved those molds to Lubbock. We hope that Lubbock would be the site for production. We're trying to keep all the jobs here right in Texas because of industrial molding here. I was involved and worked forward with industrial molding several years ago. They've been purchased, and they're not interested in doing small projects like this. So one of the fascinating things with the accelerator program is the mentors that you can be surrounded with. And one of the mentors that came out of the woodwork through whatever process was Ron Coquette, who is the inventor. Have you ever seen the sharks collection things in doctors' offices?
Oh, yeah.
That was one of his companies, and he also invented a device for collecting disposable fluids during surgeries. He sold both those companies to Johnson & Johnson, and he's on board with us and has given us pretty strong direction on how to push through things, and I think it's really going to accelerate how fast we get through this process.
Does your company have anybody that's working in it full-time and that's their only
No employees.
employees?
Everybody just put in the time to, and we agreed when we entered the accelerator program as a great process for someone to go through, starting at ground zero. So our first weeks were all about legal structure and those kind of things. So how do you put your partnerships agreement together? We get the attorneys in to talk, and et cetera, et cetera. This past week, we talked about the whole lean startup. How do you approach going out and talking to people based on using a scientific method where you're testing and trying to find out, rather than just, I've got my idea and I'm going to make them buy it. One of the reasons why companies fail. So we agreed we're going through the process exactly as it's staged, so that we think we're going to be very successful. We don't want anyone to say, well, they were successful because they already had a bunch of stuff done. No, we're going to go through the process for a good case study. It's a wonderful process. If you're not involved mentoring or attending any of the presentations, I sure advise it.
So you don't expect any blowback from the FDA or anything on this? Because, I mean, they don't have to have any approval, or you think they'll try to get involved in it, or?
When we did the clinical trials, FDA approved those,
Oh,
and we had IRB oversight, so we're covered. And during that trial, they designated us as non-significant risk, which gave us equivalency.
I'm sorry, I must have missed that.
And we have to go back to them to have that approval outside of clinical trial to go and sell it, and we're in the process of doing that. Now, if we're going to do that on the basis of simply saying all those bad things that can happen to a sample that degrades it, exposure to light, surface area, et cetera, our device eliminates those. We're not saying it increases the chance of pregnancy. So we're not making claims of superiority. To do that, we're going to have large clinical trial data to do that.
I was about to say, what risks are involved for you? Do you have liabilities to the consumer of these products?
We would have liability, I guess, in the product if they could extend that, something that could cause that. All the surface area that's exposed in this case is exactly the same plastic that's used in the specimen cups, and it's FDA-approved plastic. So we'll carry the insurance. We don't anticipate that there's going to be any liability. We anticipate getting letters of gratitude.
Have you had any feedback from the families that you changed their lives? Or is that too far?
That's too
down the
far.
chain?
It's, at this point, who we help is blind. So, but everybody on our team is involved in some way with that.
The initial trial was actually run through Texas Tech through our lab, so it was so it was a research project in the lab. It wasn't really run through RSI. It was run through Tech. So they had no idea where the cups came from.
Have they actually been used in practice,
In the trial.
Okay.
And in fact, our docs that we do infertility treatments with at Tech, they're like, hey, we have a patient that this would be great for. Can we use it? We're like, no, because we're not running the study right now. And they're like,
All right, anybody else? Taylor?
What's after the accelerator?
Fund it and crank up.
Yeah, I didn't hear you either. What was that?
So he said, what happens after the accelerator? I said, we're funded and we crank up.
Okay.
Be headquartered here in Lubbock unless there's an early exit event. That's a possibility. Cook Medical, who is the largest producer of laboratory fertility clinics, has already talked to us in terms of working with us on the marketing of the device, and in fact, at one point offered to take it offshore so you don't have to worry about FDA. Taking it to some of the countries where there's huge problems with infertility and they don't need FDA approval, one of which is Norway. The male's a problem 50 to 70% of the time.
Do we have any more questions for John? Austin?
Speaking about that and speaking about the lean startup methods that you talked about, did you ever consider going overseas somewhere where there's no regulations first to test things out before going through the long process of
No,
being approved to you? Would you consider that?
if I had funding.
Okay.
well, a lot of it also depends. Some countries you can go to and the FDA goes, well, that's okay. And some countries you go to and the FDA goes, you will never be approved in this country. So you have to be really careful about how you do that if you want to get FDA approval.
Anyone else? All right, thank you,
Thank
John.
you.
John, I did forget to ask the last question for you, which is what can we, as a startup community, do for you?
Support. Come to meetings like this. Won't necessarily help me, but it'll help others that were where I was 6 months ago. It's wonderful to have great ideas and think about these plans. Sometimes everybody thinks you're crazy, so it's nice to have a place to come and knock heads with people that are equally insane as you are.
All right, thank you. All right.
Let's support the accelerator.
Okay.
Okay.
It's Mark. And the company is Dennis. Okay.
Okay, while Tasha's getting that set up, I'll go ahead and introduce our next presenter. This is Mark Kruger with a company called Dennis, which is another company that is participating in the Texas Tech Accelerator Program. And can we please give them a round of applause?
Okay, well, you're getting out of our team the one who is probably the least qualified to talk about the specifics of the device. My two partners, the CEO of the company, Victoria Coverstone, who also happens to be my wife, is aerospace engineer, and Dr. Batu, and I can't pronounce his last name yet, and I've only known him for a month, is in the mechanical engineering department, doing his postdoc work. And then you have me, who is a finance person. I have my PhD in finance. I got into this project, it was a Sunday afternoon, and I was getting ready to go out and play tennis, and my wife said, we need to do a business plan, it's got to be done by Tuesday. And engineers know a lot of things, but they don't know anything about business plans. So that brought me into this project. So my first question, how many of you out here have been diagnosed with bruxism? How many of you know what bruxism is? We got one winner.
I didn't before yesterday.
Bruxism is grinding of your teeth, and sleep bruxism is grinding at night. You say, well, okay, so what? Well, people who grind their teeth tend to have additional physical problems. First, you can do physical damage to the teeth, you can do cracked molars, you can get your jaw out of alignment, it causes a lot of pain, can also lead to a series of headaches. So there are many symptoms that are revealed from people that have bruxism. Problem is, how do you detect it? Well, none of you know that you have it because currently in the United States, there is no simple way to determine if you have this problem. Now, what we can do today is, your dentist, if he sees the sign of wear on your teeth, which means the problem has already evolved to a point where you've got problems that are going to cost a lot of money to fix, they can send you to a sleep center for one night. You leave your home, they wire you up, put electrodes and sensors in your jaw, and do a recording over the nighttime of whether or not you are grinding your teeth based on how much pressure you're putting on that. That costs roughly $1,000 a night if you want, and that's just to tell you if you have the problem. Current detection devices, you have to go to Europe or the Far East, and these, if you remember Emmett Smith in Back to the Future, the first one, and you remember when Michael J. Fox went to the past and he was wearing this helmet and had all these things coming out of it, and he says, this is going to read your mind. Well, that is what these devices look like in Europe. It's literally a helmet that fits over your head, then they connect wires to your jaw. The dentist or the physician there will have to accompany you, visit you at your home, or set you up in a place where he can see you in the evening and make sure everything is lined up properly. And then that device will measure whether or not you have bruxism. Well, again, in Europe, the dentist may buy the device and then charge the individual to use it. It's not convenient, and again, it's fairly expensive, especially compared to what we're going to be doing. Third thing you can do now is forget about it. Just all of you can assume you have this problem. And that means you can go to Walgreens and you can buy a relatively inexpensive mouth guard, $25 to $50, and you can wear that every night. And after about 3 months, they recommend that you replace this. So every 3 months, you buy a new mouth guard, you put it in your mouth, without knowing if you really have the problem that you're getting a solution for. Now, statistics tell us in this room, I think I counted, with me included, roughly 20 people. It means that between 2, 3, 4 of you, statistically, in this group, will have bruxism. And if you've got it, that means that 2 to 4 of us can expect that we're going to not have it detected, or we're going to pay the $1,000 and go to a sleep clinic, things of this nature, to determine if we have the problem. So between 8 and 16% means the market for this product is roughly 11 million. So that's where Team Dentist comes in. Our mission statement is we wanted to offer a simple, reliable device. We call it the BAT. Because we haven't come up with a more clever name yet, but that's bruxism analysis tool that will indicate it, whether or not you have the problem. And it has the benefits of what we refer to as the 3 C's, and that is cost, comfort, and convenience. So this is a diagnostic tool. It'll provide indisputable evidence, and it's a single-use device. This is sort of what it will look like. To be honest, we are still working on the prototype. But it's going to involve a mouthpiece with these sensor measuring chips, and it's color coded. So if you put down enough pressure, it actually changes color. So the dentist simply looks at the color and says, oh, it's more than yellow, you've got a problem. Value proposition, well, we expect to sell this at roughly $25. Versus the average cost of night guards, and we have calculated based on that price, we'll have a contribution margin of $14 per unit sold. Marketing approaches. We looked at it, we came up with 2. I'm here to see if you guys have other ideas, because you're a lot more knowledgeable, you're entrepreneurs, you have the experience. We've identified we can target the dental community, we can do direct marketing to consumers, so we could do these late night infomercials, which I've always wanted to do, and go on TV and they look at me and say, okay. Any other approaches we might use? We've chosen to target the dental community, and currently we've surveyed 50 dentists, I put dental offices, but 50 dentists in the Lubbock area. The result of that is we had to revise the back design. Originally, the engineers wanted to put all these microchips so that it would, and Bluetooth capabilities that would send out a recording of what was happening every night. Well, that cost around $500. Dentist said, we don't need anything that elaborate. We love toys, we don't need something like that. If you could just give us a simple indicator, that led to the design that we chose. Using the dental community, we can focus on the ADA and affiliates and awareness institutions and dental schools and dental clinics. So these are our immediate concerns, and I'm hoping to get feedback from you guys this morning or anytime after. I'll give you my information later. But does the marketing strategy make sense? We realize that we can expand. We don't have to limit ourselves to one, but the money that's involved in doing a direct campaign to the public, that's outside our scope right now. So that's why we've chosen the dental community approach. Prototype cost is close to $30. Lowering the cost depends on the manufacturing process. And we've had some feedback, that's where we got the contribution margin we did, but we have no experience on how to proceed. And I saw John's group, I mean, you guys are already working with a manufacturing company. Anything you can do will help us there. And finally, additional capital, debt, equity, giving up control. How have you guys addressed those issues? Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mark. All right, does anybody have any questions for Mark?
Yes.
This is on the marketing side. There are several firms that target dentists. Some target professional, or like endodontists, specific, that sort of way. But for general dentistry, there's a company called Henry Schein that pretty well owns that market. They market almost everything from the big x-ray machines to the dental techs that they do. They got everything.
Okay.
Got a whole other side for the medical division.
Henry Scheid?
Henry Scheid, SCHEIM. And I've got the name of the local guy that I'm glad to share with you after this meeting.
That'd be great.
But they are a national firm. Actually, they're based in Germany. So having them, they have reps that are in the dentist's office, I guess worldwide, I know they are national, and working with them may give you immediate distribution access.
That's a great idea. Thank you.
So since you pivoted on the sort of the technology inside the thing, this this pressure sensing, color changing thing, is that something that already exists that you're just going to embed in there?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm kind of curious, what's the intellectual property that you're going to end up with? You're going to end up with like hoping to have like a utility patent on the use of that, or are you going to have anything?
To be honest, you just made me aware of something else. We will strive to do whatever it takes to protect the concept of putting together, because we're not manufacturing anything new ourselves. We're just taking different information or different techniques or tools that are out there and putting them together in a slightly different way to address this problem. So I don't know how much protection we can get on our product, and I know that some of my partners they're working with some patent lawyers and things like that to try to find out what our rights are and how we can best protect them.
Tony?
Yeah.
I would assume that you were going to have different sizes, like so children can have early detection of this as well.
You know, it's interesting. Dentists do not worry so much about children, particularly before they get their permanent teeth. So, but yes, we are envisioning different sizes, still playing around with the idea that maybe after the introduction that maybe we can, the dentist can be more involved in the process to actually do the fitting. And then we take the mold that they create and embed our tools into that. But yes, there would have to be different sizes. But for children, it's usually, I think, around 13 or 14 and on that dentists are concerned with.
That does make sense. Another reason why I ask is because every time I go to the dentist and they put those molds in my mouth, they have to use a child size.
Yeah.
So even that has to be considered too. We all have different sized mouths.
Right.
Okay. Another question. What was another question?
I have no idea.
I remember what was the next question. I'll come back to that question.
Okay, anybody else have a question?
Yes.
What regulatory concerns do you have? Do you need to go to FDA? Do you need to go somewhere else for approval to use this in diagnostics?
Based on the information we have to date, we do not have to worry about going to the